Budget 2022 was unveiled in the National Assembly on January 26, 2022 by Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance, Dr. Ashni Singh. And coming in at $552.9 billion, this is the largest budget that Guyana has ever seen, and it seeks to promote growth and expansion without bringing new tax burdens or hardships on the people of Guyana. Welcome to another episode of Budget in Focus. Joining me in studio at this time is the Honorable Minister of Amerindian Affairs, Pauline Sukhai. Thank you so much for being here, Minister.
Good evening, Travis, and thank you for having me.
All right. So my first question to you at this time is, what are your overall thoughts on Budget 2022 and what it seeks to accomplish?
Well, my overall thoughts is that it is one of the largest budget Guyana indeed has ever seen. It speaks about our government, the PPP Civic government plan for Guyana in ensuring that we lay the foundation for a prosperous Guyana and for a Guyana where our human resource is being established to deal with all the modern and forward-thinking vision and plan that we have, that we expect Guyana to be challenged with in the future. And it's a people's budget. If one heard the senior minister when he was presenting, there was a large component of his speech which focused on women, the elderly, children, young people, and generally farmers, the fisher folks. Everyone has something in this budget. So it's a budget for our people.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Minister. Specifically, I wanted to take a look back at the two previous budgets and the work that you were able to accomplish within your ministry. I know coming in 2020, especially after the delayed or protracted delay elections, and then we had the COVID-19 pandemic, there were some shortcomings or challenges that you rose above, and we see that a lot of transformation is taking place in the country. So could you tell me what, from 2020 to now, what it has been like within your ministry?
Travis, you would recall that our government came in August the 2nd of 2020, and our budget was presented in October, I think it was. So we had a 3 months budget. During the time that we came in, we had to streamline some of the approaches in the ministry. We had to refocus on what were going to be more impactful for the constituency of Amerindians, what our job had to be established to move forward, and to clear some of the neglect which we have encountered over the last 5 years prior to us coming into office. For example, our hinterland residents in some regions, they had gone back to actually walking from one village to the next. That had to be corrected. I can say so because in our first budget and in the 2021 budget, we had to immediately allocate funding for the purchasing of ATVs. I remember going to take presidential check in K2 the very first year because it was short, and we promised that we will increase the presidential grant, and we increased it. At that time we increased it to $280+ million of investment for the villages, and we had to ensure that those monies, that we had proposals to match the money, and we had to deliver the money before December 30th. And when we went out there to assist in the distribution of the grants, the two showers complained that they had to walk, one for 6 hours, one for an entire day. And of course, the revelation of the fact that their ATVs were not operating in the terrain for Region 8, for example. ATV is the main mode of transportation, and that had to be corrected in 2021, where we were able to purchase ATVs. Even the Ministry of Health, through various programs, had to donate to the health system in some areas that ATV is so relevant and necessary. So we had quite a lot of challenges in transportation, of course in communication, of course in agriculture, the women had no means of thinking that they had any other option in life. Young people were languishing since 2019. The HAZE program, which was replaced the CSO when the APNU AFC disbanded and discontinued that program. The young people were left without nothing to do. They introduced later on in 2016, mid of 2016, what was called the HAZE, and by 2019 that was over. And young people had nothing to do. They had no options. They had no access to opportunities. Today, as we speak, even in 2021, young people in the hinterland didn't only saw the reestablishment of the CSO program, where we started in the first year in 2020 with 500 immediately between October to December of 2020. 500 young people were engaged, and they receive a stipend of $30,000. In year 2021, we put on the list another 1,500, taking that total to 2,000 young people engage in meaningful activities in their communities, helping with the village council tasks, and helping community development in various ways. And so therefore we moved from nothing, no access to opportunity for youths in their village, to a CSO program which was reintroduced. And today we have 2,000 of them enrolled in this program, working in the interests of their community, and at the same time earning an income which was absent prior to 2020. And in our budget, you would have heard the senior minister announce that we are going to increase the CSO by an additional 500 more youths. What it means financially also is that the sum has moved from around 720 million in stipend to large amount of $1,050,000,000 that will go into pockets of young people, male and female. What this means for the cash economy at the village level, it means that those monies will not stay in the young people pocket. It will be used to purchase items relevant to their needs, for their families, etc. And the village shop will have business, which means that the entrepreneurship in terms of businesses, commerce, and so on is going to expand by 1,050,000,000 in year 2022, just from the income that 2,500 young people will earn. So this is something which these people are looking forward to. It is actually having direct impact on people's lives. I remember a story that was told to me by a young man. He said before the CSO, he was thinking of how he was going to make a home for himself. And when the CSO program came on, he had a skill of making bricks, and he had made quite a lot of red burnt brick in his village. And with being on the CSO, he saved his money. That was 30,000 a month, and he purchased windows and zinc, and he was able to provide himself with a decent shelter. So that is as much as an impact on young people who are aspiring to own their own homes, without having to go to the bank. He saved his stipend to buy the 2 necessary materials for completing his home. And there goes it.
So what you're explaining there is the trickle-down effect of how
Exactly.
money, is dispersed. But I want us to talk specifically or generally from Budget 2022. What can Indigenous people look forward to? What new programs will also be created? And which ones will continue but be more impactful over this year?
Well, every budget brings with it new proposals and new directions and focus based on the year before. But remember that our government plan in medium and long term. We don't plan short term. So we are pretty aware of some of the challenges that we have to address in Indigenous communities. So in 2022 budget, again, we will see a focus on supporting women entrepreneurship. And in this case, our government is providing $5,000 per child from a family. So if a family has 3 children in unregistered school and they are getting 15,000 for school uniforms, and in a village where there are about say close to 200 students, what it means for women is that you can set up sewing units, and our government is going to help hinterland remote communities to set up sewing units. We're going to train them in garment construction, and as the new term kicks in September, we're expecting that women's sewing units will be established to support the sale and the purchases from the village itself, and that will bring employment to the women, or some of the women in the village, and also income into their pockets. So that is going to be a new initiative. In the past, what we have done as a government was to provide school uniform materials, everything. In this case, what we're doing, we're providing the monies and the helping to support the village garment enterprise that will provide the school uniforms and other garments that they will be trained to construct and sew. So that's new. It is not something that is new across Guyana, but it's new in terms of the approach, the income generating component of this sewing unit. Agriculture is going to continue. You know that our government has expended a large sum of money. Last year we expended close to 470 million to purchase tractors, 112 tractors, and with accompanying implements, etc. And this year, what we have done is we will increase that by another 71. So we have already, before the end of the year, procured 71 tractors, and in this year, we will be paying the rollover balances when on delivery. So 71 additional communities will receive tractors to help to stimulate much more agriculture, transportation needs, including tractors can be multi-purpose. It can be used for many purposes. They can use it in the mining sector, they can use it in the forestry sector, because Amerindians have a multi-sectorial type of economy. It's not only based on agriculture.
Thank you so much, Minister. Specifically, there is also $561.6 million, which will support the rights of indigenous people by accelerating the land titling program to achieve a target of 20 certificates of title. Can you first of all tell us what the land titling program is, and secondly, how this sum will help to sustain this even after 2022?
Has happened in the land titling program was a disaster under the APNU AFC government. When we were aware of it while we were in opposition, and every parliament that we attended, and every opportunity we had a chance to raise it, we raised it. However, by the end of the 5th year of the previous government, the minister at that time announced publicly to the media that he was unable to move forward on the project, and he was unable to even title a single Amerindian title to any village. And therefore, as soon as we got back into office, one of our manifesto promises and commitment to the Amerindians was that we will we're going to establish the ALT, we're going to continue to address land titling and demarcations for Amerindian lands, and we are going to conclude on it. And so in 2022, what we envisage we will do is that we will have 20 such titles, which will be extension, addressed, and subsequently we will continue with demarcation also. Last year we completed 2 demarcations, and we have 3 in progress that will conclude before the end of probably February, that are continuing over. The field exercise is extensive. We still do the traditional way of doing cadastral surveys, that is going by the boundaries on foot, and measuring and putting coordinates and poles in. So it's not done, by a GPS. GPS
Okay.
helps in the preparation of the initial plans and so on, based on maps and so on. But when you have to survey, you have to go into the fields with your survey team and actually walk the grounds and the boundaries and put in your poles, which is the 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 poles could be wooden and concrete to ensure that you're marking the boundaries accurately. So in the 2022, we will continue. We know we are very proud that we have reestablished the ALT unit. We have employed surveyors back. We have a project associate that is working, helping the project manager, and they have moved forward for me, in a satisfactory speed over the last 6 months and into this year. I think that the Amerindian villages and the village council, those who are waiting their extension and their demarcation to be completed, will see much more being done for them under the PPP Civic government. And I think we're proud of that. We have a record of implementation.
Minister Sukhai, there's also the spin-off, and when I say that, I mean there are other ministries, perhaps like Ministry of Public Works, that have certain projects that will be rolled out that will directly and even indirectly benefit indigenous people. The building of roads and bridges. We're going to see a lot of development in hydro and also solar electricity. How do you see these projects being interlinked and bettering the lives of indigenous people?
Well, Travis, of course, there's a lot of overlapping. There's a lot of cross-cutting challenges and important development projects that will benefit the hinterland. You're correct. The Ministry of Public Works, under which for example, the hinterland airships come under, there's a budget for that there, and hinterland airships, being rehabilitating them or reconstructing new ones, definitely will be impactful on people's lives. For example, if there's an airstrip in a very remote community, in times of emergency, that medical patient can access tertiary level support in record time. And so our government has recognized that in terms of remote communities that are far away and cannot be accessed by air. When you put an airstrip there, or you rehabilitate their airstrip where planes are finding it difficult to operate from, it means that their cost of living can be reduced. There's a clear case where there's a community that our government is examining whether an airstrip can be done to assist in all these challenges, because they are very remote. They're 9 hours boat ride to Bartica to collect services and goods are a tremendous challenge on the people. And so these are the impactful results that can occur. Medically, it is important for food, for cost of living. It is also important, and definitely movement of travel. People must be able to travel with ease. And the Amerindians should be able to have options for traveling. So roads, airships are very important factors in our development projections to making life easier for Amerindians.
Are there,
For example, poor roads could bring a lot of criticism on our government, but within the last year and a half, the PPP Civic government has improved roads tremendously. I can speak to the Linden Lethem Road. When we came into office in the early period, there was a lot of criticism. Social media took that matter out of hand, and our government rose to the occasion, and we had projects that were allocated and rolled out by lots to improve it. And in our budget, there is a whooping 5 million allocated towards hinterland roads. So that means that our government continues to pay attention to the improving of road infrastructure for the communities in the hinterland. That will benefit them tremendously.
Are there any specific plans through your ministry, to assist in capacity building, let's say for Tushos, and also the preservation of culture and language within indigenous communities?
Yes, Travis. We began that program last year in 2020, where our ministry allocated sums of monies to provide training to the newly elected Tushos. That will continue in this year. In terms of culture and language, that is also important. The Ministry of Culture will obviously be the lead ministry in some of those, and there is a large amount of money also in his budget to deal across the board with preservation, development, and supporting culture, sports, etc. In our budget, we have a line under the Amerindian Development Fund. Under that fund, we have about $26 million to deal with preservation of meeting places, which are called menabs. This is important. This is the identity of the architecture of Amerindians, and therefore we will see a few communities that will benefit from establishing and constructing menabs. Benabs is a landmark for Amerindian communities. You go to Anai, there's a huge Benab. Our government has contributed to that. You go to some other areas in different regions, Benab is there, the highlight or the hallmark of an Amerindian meeting place. So yes, we will be doing that. Language is important to us too.
Yes. Minister, we're coming down to program time, but I wanted to ask you specifically. I know that the president often speaks about the One Guyana. How do you see your ministry and the indigenous people really shaping or playing a role in achieving One Guyana, and especially in the context of where Guyana is headed towards greater transformation, not only for us, but for the region and internationally too?
Yeah. Travis, yes, our government and His Excellency has put forward such a wonderful projection for our Guyana. It has to be one Guyana. Our motto speaks to one people, one nation, one destiny. That in itself is one Guyana. The Ministry of Amerindian Affairs plays an important role in representing the issues of indigenous people across the hinterland and even on the coast where they are located also. Our government programs is geared to One Guyana. When we speak about, for example, Because We Care program, there's no special single out students or children. The Amerindians are all part and parcel of that. They benefit at the same level. So in the budget coming, we see 25,000 will be given to every student. The Amerindians are beneficiaries for those. And that is treating them as one, on equal footing like every other student or Amerindian child. When we talk about school uniform, they get $5,000 across the board. Again, when we talk about the gold program, there are various linkages and components to that program that is building for the indigenous youths and even women and even anyone above 18 who are eligible to apply for a study program under the Gold Initiative. And that is being supported by the ICT Hub. When the ICT Hub program completes across the hinterland and remote poor communities, we will find that the students, the young people, women, farmers will all have connectivity, giving them an opportunity to options in their own category. For example, young people will be connected to university internationally because they too will and is eligible for gold scholarship. If they are eligible for entry into University of Guyana and they are successful in being placed or being accepted because they qualify and are eligible to enter the University of Guyana, internet facility in their community will connect them. And so we are building not only a platform, but we are rolling out the level of initiative and programs that will bring in the options and the opportunity closer to home to the indigenous people. And of course, we don't see indigenous peoples different. They are Guyanese, and all the programs that we have are geared toward inclusivity and including the Amerindians. Agriculture. If you look at the budget, the agriculture budget holds a lot for agricultural development, and we will never leave the Amerindians agricultural support out of there. In fact, it has advanced through us, but on the technical side, and on the various initiatives that the Ministry of Agriculture will be promoting, Amerindian communities will benefit. In fact, already last year, a lot of Amerindian communities were benefiting from funding to improve their agriculture and cultivation in their villages under and from the Ministry of Agriculture.
Thank you so much, Minister, for taking time out to be here, putting into context Budget 2022 and what we can expect from your ministry. There's a lot of exciting things that will be happening, and especially in regard to transformation. So thank you for all the work that you're doing through the ministry. And thank you to you also, our listeners and viewers of this program of Budget in Focus. I am Travis Bruce. Thanks for joining us.